Thanks. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things I think you should know about. Sorry about getting started a bit later today. We were having a little bit of internet problems, so please pray to those technology gods that this broadcast will work, because I have truly a very special guest. She's plant-based royalty. She's really from probably the first family of plant-based, meaning the Campbell family. Her name is Dr. LeAnne Campbell. She is the daughter of Dr. Colin Campbell and Karen Campbell. He couldn't have done it without her. She's the author of some wonderful books like the China Study Cookbook and the China Study All-Star, where I have the privilege of having some of my recipes in here. And she's doing a lot of great things at the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, where she's now the CEO, and she's broadcasting all the way from the Dominican Republic. And we'll find out why she's there in a moment. And please welcome LeAnne to the show. It's nice to officially meet you. We've had conversations through emails, but we've never actually met before.
Thank you, AJ. I actually remember seeing you on the holistic holiday at Sea Cruise.
You were so busy with your family. You guys went with
I
the
think
whole family.
It was like 8 years ago. That's right. I was with my sons. It might have been even longer than that.
That
like
is
12,
so
15 years ago.
So
yeah,
you have 4 siblings, right?
I do.
But you're the only girl.
I am. Yeah.
What's your order? What's your birth order?
So I'm the second oldest, and just 2 years behind Nelson. And then my brother Keith and my brother Dan, and then the baby of the family is Tom.
Okay, him I know, and I relate very well to him because he loves improvisational comedy, and he's just wonderful. The 2 Campbells that we've never heard about, tell us a little bit about them. What do they do? Do they want to be on the show?
Yeah, so my brother Dan is a special education teacher, and he teaches at the elementary level, and he also coaches soccer, middle school soccer, and he's really super involved in his school. And he has 2 little twins, so he lives actually very close to my parents. He's the one who's always there taking care of them for anything and everything. He's wonderful. And then my other brother Keith lives in Durham, North Carolina, and he's basically a computer engineer, and he has 2 younger girls as well, 2 small. They started late in life having children. So
what's it like having 4 brothers though? Was it good being the only girl? Did you get special privileges?
I would say no. I think some of them would say I did, but I don't think I got as many privileges as they thought. I helped my mother a lot more than they did, for instance, in the kitchen, and in that generation, more cooking and cleaning up and all of that stuff. So,
oh boy, if it was today, they'd be helping too.
No, that's right. Yeah. They do now. They all help their wives extensively, and all of them are actually pretty good cooks.
That's neat. So, is the whole Campbell clan plant-based? Is every single person on board?
Everyone is, AJ. Everyone. All of them, the nieces and all my nieces, my parents. There's how many nieces and nephews now? There's 2, 4, 3, 6. There's 10, 12 grandchildren. So all of them are, yes.
That must make it really easy at holidays and get-togethers.
It does, actually. All my sister-in-laws, everyone, wow, they bring great dishes, and everyone's actually a really good cook. Yes. So
the 2 brothers that I don't know yet, do they have any interest in doing anything in the plant-based world, or they shy away from the limelight?
No. So my one brother Keith, who's the computer engineer, he's more into the gardening stuff too. He's got an incredible little setup where he lives with these square foot gardens, and he grows a crazy amount of food. He's got an incredible green thumb. But they don't really do much, no, with my brother Dan as well. His wife, her dream has always been, I think, or she's wanted to open up like a vegan bakery or a plant-based bakery, a whole food plant-based bakery. And she makes the best desserts. It's incredible.
And why don't I have her on the show making a dessert?
Yeah, perhaps I can talk to her about it. And
that would be amazing. You know,
It's
again,
really
like
good,
when
actually.
I hear your story that you have this entire family and your parents, Dr. T. Colin Campbell and Karen Campbell, have 10 grandchildren, all 5 kids are plant-based, all the grandchildren. I hear the same thing when I talk to the Esselstyns, the McDougals, the Furmans, for example. Why other people struggle so much with getting their families and their spouses on board? Why do you think that everybody in your family got the memo and just did it?
I think to a certain extent, we started in high school. The transition wasn't, something that happened like boom overnight. It was a relatively slow transition. I remember, it was like eighth, ninth grade or so. They just started removing sort of the red meat. It was slow. And even when I went to college, they still had like milk in the refrigerator and cheese. And then when I came home from college, it was like Rice Dream, all these plant-based milks, and it's, okay, none of this is in the house anymore. It was a relatively slow transition, but at the same time, I think my mother has just been, she's probably been the most diligent of, I mean, she was just, we used to call her the food police because, she would come into our home when our children were really young. If we had any dairy at all, it's like, well, that causes ear infections. You need to get this out of here. So my mother was very, very intent about always keeping us all online.
Oh,
So,
she
but then at the same time, I think we all came to it in our own way. I mean, my brother Keith, definitely for sort of an ethical, environmental, humanitarian reason. Same with me. And yeah, so all of us sort of came to it in a slightly different way, but we're very, very committed to it.
Some families read the Bible together. Was your family, for the China study, required reading?
Well, we all did, absolutely. And it was just the audio tape. I remember actually my sons were young when they first listened to it. My mother actually gave them the audio tape. So we listened to it on a trip. And my sons were raised 100% on a plant-based diet. And they're now, 29 and 28. And they're very, very strict.
And I'm guessing they're healthy and they're not small for their age or anything like that.
My oldest is actually 6'4". And he was raised 100%, from a baby. And I went through my pregnancy 100% too. And both of them, he was an all-state soccer player in a state that had really big in soccer. And both of my sons excelled at sports. And where did they get their protein from? It's all the wonderful rice and beans and all the plant stuff that they ate. But
so 6'4", so much for plants stunting growth, huh?
That's right. That's right. And then my other son, he's pushing, 5'11", 6.
Wow.
So,
everybody I've met in your family is just lovely. And you guys don't seem like very argumentative type people. So I'm guessing when other people don't agree, you're probably not really confrontational with them. And so I'm guessing your sons haven't had problems growing up plant-based because they don't, I'm guessing if they have the Campbell gene, they probably aren't trying to force it on everybody else.
You're right, AJ. They never did. And in fact, they always seem to make it a game. My youngest son, I remember once his first grade teacher, she told me, she said, I just laugh every time we go and sit down and have lunch. Nelson always brings out his little container of food and he says, okay, guess what I'm eating today? So he's got the whole class doing this guessing game around his meal. She said, and what was that thing he ate the other day? It was pink. It was, what did you have in that? So it was a potato salad with beets in it. But they were very comfortable and confident in what they were doing with it. And they weren't confrontational at all or pushing it, and people respected them generally.
I think the confrontational approach doesn't work. I've been vegan for 45 years and I have a dear friend. I'm just going to say who she is because she knows this, Linda Middlesworth, and she wants everybody to be vegan because she really cares. But it does. I think when you're pushy, it pushes people away.
I agree. And I think the thing about it for children too, they have to really feel comfortable. And because we lived in Mississippi, And it was a barbecue haven where we lived there for a couple years. And I think just really feeling comfortable and confident in their own skin with what they're doing. And I think, for children, it's sort of like making the why a little bit bigger so that they were very young. My father actually went with them to sort of a factory farm near Lansing where they lived. And so they were very familiar with all the different aspects of this kind of lifestyle. And they were very strict, actually, both of them. So.
Was your mom a good cook before you guys became plant-based and then it just grew from there?
Yes, she was. Actually, my mother was always a very, very good cook. My parents, they had a big garden. So my grandmother actually, well, my dad was raised on a dairy farm. And so my grandmother, my dad's mother, she had a massive big garden and she canned everything. So my mother, we lived in Virginia. It was outside of Blacksburg. My parents, I remember that's where they first had their really, really large garden. And my mom canned and she froze everything. And so my mother was always like preparing some kind of food, preserving it. She was making pickles all the time, canning different kinds of tomato sauce. And, she's making all kinds of jams. So yeah, my mother's really, she's a very good, she's a good cook.
What's your best recipe?
So goodness. I think she's sort of the queen of making greens, any kind of greens with like beans or potatoes or dill. She has all different kinds of flavors that she uses with greens. And, there were even collards, some of the hardier, stringent, more the greens, she knows how to prepare them like anyone else. I think anyone that sort of eats her greens are like, oh, these are good. But greens, and also she makes some different kinds of stews that are good. She has, different sauces. And so, and her pancakes are probably the best. Every single Saturday we have, she makes a big pancake meal with different kinds of homemade fruit syrups to put on it. So
how come she hasn't written a book?
When I first started working on this book, the China Study Cookbook, I actually tried to recruit my mother, and at that time, Kim, and it was a time where everyone was so busy with their lives, and they were just. And fortunately for me, I was in between jobs, so I had the summer to sort of work on this as well. But my mother. I think a lot of the recipes that I have in my book are actually inspired from her cooking. So
and Kim's fabulous as well, written many books. She'll be on the show next month with her new book. Yeah, you got a really lucky family. Not only did they understand the science and were motivated to change their diet, but they all make delicious food.
Yeah, it is. It's actually fun. We just had celebrated my parents' 60th wedding anniversary this past summer. And so it was up in Warsaw, New York. My brother Tom had a small, or he has a neat little house out in the countryside, not too far from Buffalo, New York. And it was a really neat week. We spent the week there, and the food was just, oh my gosh, it was so good. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was good. Everyone in the whole family, I mean, all of them they're great chefs. So holidays are great.
I was going to say, I can only imagine. Do you guys get together, all of you, for the holidays like Thanksgiving?
I generally would get together once a year, at least every summer. We try to get together at the beach, Holden Beach. We've been doing that since as far as I can remember. When that was the place that we went to, the one consistent vacation place we went through for the entire years. And I'm now 55 and they still go there almost every year. But we all try to get together there every year. And for the holidays, everyone used to try to go there for Christmas, but I think sometimes when all the kids come into play, and then when the kids get a little bit older, sometimes it's hard for everyone to make that trip, because half of us live in North Carolina and the other half live in New York. And it's around a 10-hour drive to their house. So then, packing up the kids and everything for the holidays is a little hard. But we do get together though for the trip in the summer every year.
But you don't live in the United States anymore. Tell us about why you live in the Dominican Republic and what's that like living there?
Yeah, so I actually I live in Chapel Hill, outside of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and both of my sons, I bought some land, and I actually share each one has a home site, or they have their site on the land, but for the most, yeah, for a good part of the year now, I live in the Dominican Republic, and I live here in the mountains in this little place it's very rural. It's not too far from Salcedo. It's around 10 minutes to the largest town, and there's only around 30 houses here in this small village, and I have an education center. So, I used to have groups that came down every summer and during the year. My background is in education, so I do a lot of teacher training and workshops for teachers and high school students. And so we would have groups come all the time, and it's AJ, it's beautiful. You'll have to come and visit. I have this crazy view on all sides, and the weather is actually perfect. It's not as hot as North Carolina. And in the evenings, we have a cool breeze. And I grow all my own food here. So I have like 84 different things that we grow on this land. And so it's sort of and I love to create and explore with different foods. So it's just as a hobby almost. So in addition to work, it's nice to just go out and get something. And all my neighbors, I take things down to my neighbors all the time, and they're like, oh goodness, what did you make now? So
I'm not even sure where the Dominican Republic is. What other countries are?
Sure.
Where
So it's in the Caribbean, and it borders Haiti. So one side is on Puerto Rico, and then Cuba is on the other side. So from Miami, it's it's barely an hour flight, and it's actually a geographically diverse country. It's got the most diversity of any country in the Caribbean, and the highest mountain peak and lowest point, and it's just I enjoy it. I live not too far from the beach, an hour and a half, and it's a beautiful beach. So, and with internet now, it's really easy to have WhatsApp. I talk to my sons almost every day, and so
that is so cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Center for Nutrition Studies in general, what it is, in case people are familiar with that organization and what you specifically do there.
Okay, sure. So I started at the center, as more as an advisor a couple of years ago, but I'm now the CEO, and the center is actually called the Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, and we call, it's CNS for short. And it's really about sharing and promoting the research and work of my father, that he's had over his entire career. And, we shared not only the laboratory experiments that he sort of, conducted, but also the large scale human population studies that he did. And, AJ, my dad very well, and his work, but all of his research is just really documenting the power of a plant-based diet, not only to prevent, but to also help treat and cure, several of these diet-related diseases. And so within the center, we have a lot of education programs. Our main focus is education. We have the plant-based certificate program, which now has over 20,000 graduates who've taken the certificate program. And it's pretty impressive. It's pretty neat with so many people who've taken it. It's actually, we've just updated it, and we're now in the process of really trying to expand and grow new initiatives. We have a Spanish plant-based certificate that will come out early in January with Dr. Evelise Capo. I don't know if you know Evelise Capo.
I think she's been on the show. She's a pharmacist, is she?
Yeah, she's a food pharmacist.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm trying to get every single plant-based person in the world at some point on the show, but yes, she's wonderful.
Yeah, and she's done a fantastic job. It's got 29 native speakers in the certificate, all of them from the Spanish-speaking Americas, oncologists, cardiologists, and speaking almost the same language that we're, the same message, all in Spanish that we have in the English certificate. And that's exciting. Then we also have, yeah, we also are trying to branch out a little bit more too, into building community within our community. So we have, I know you know Chef Del Sroof, he was on not too long ago, and we have the CNS kitchen, which is a really nice space. It's to support those in trying to make this transition to this kind of lifestyle. So it's teaching them through live virtual cooking classes how to prepare the food, as well as providing ebooks and support and wellness challenges. So that's actually really starting to grow. And then we have another online community called Whole Communities, and it's a space where people can come who are interested in taking this message into their communities. So, providing resources for people to do that, providing workshops on all the different ways that people can do that. So that's a nice space as well. And then my passion, my personal, I have a lot of passion in the food and sustainability area. So we're really trying to expand some of those offerings as well in terms of like planetary environmental health around this message as well. So what's good for us is good for the environment, right? So
absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So what is La Vida Land Project?
Okay, so actually, AJ, I think it's a response to what's going on around me right now. There's been massive deforestation. So I was here 35 years ago. I lived here 35 years ago. And then when I came back 35 years later, the changes that have occurred in those 35 years is just astounding in terms of the deforestation, the loss of soil, the healthy soil, and the rivers drying up, and the loss of biodiversity among the, specifically among like even plant species. And it's just, for instance, right here in this one area where I live, I would say almost 90% of the trees here, and I can almost take my computer out there and have been clear cut. And the number one reason for all of this is because of agriculture and livestock production. So the land has been clear cut basically for livestock, right? And so then the cows have been brought in, and then the soils now have become, as they say here, quemado, burnt over, dried up, dead, essentially losing all its life. The rivers that used to be down below in this one area right beside me, there were two big rivers that had 8 feet of water, and during, a good part of the year. Now there's like just barely a trickle of 6 to 8 inches of water, and all the streams and it's really, and then even the fruit, I remember the times when I would just like walk through the mountains and grapefruits, different kinds of mangoes and oranges. Now you can't even find hardly a grapefruit in this area, right? And there used to be like 8 different varieties of all of these fruits. And even, all my neighbors say the same thing. And you can't find the fruit like you used to. It's, and then what's worse is because of the soil, it rains less. And it's not just in the area that I'm in. So it's all the way up the mountain, this mountain area. It rains less and less and less. And more deforestation has occurred. And it's, this coincides with the current statistics too. 90% of all deforestation around the world is due to agriculture. And, a good part of that is due to livestock, not only for life, having more land, pasture land for livestock, but also to grow feed and soy and corn for the livestock, right? So, and then, look at our soil, 75 million, or, we're losing our soil at an astronomical rate right now. And 60 years, if we continue this rate, we're not going to have healthy soil. So La Vida Land Project is in response to that. And what we're trying to do is to take this, you can call it a wounded landscape or degraded landscape right beside where I'm located in this education center. We're going to purchase 1,100 tareas, which is approximately 300 acres of land. If you take it by surface area, it's a lot more than that. It's almost 400 or 500 acres, and reforest the entire area. And we're going to do it through this agroforestry food system, and reforest it through a regenerative process of trying to, bring back the forest and healthier soils and the rivers as well. So
thank you.
Yeah. So
how do people get involved in the whole communities, and maybe talk a little bit about how that started?
sure. So Whole Communities is an online networking educational space where people from around the world are coming into this space to share and learn together on what we can do in our community to promote this message. So personally, when I first came to CNS, my background in training is like I had shared earlier, is in education and community development and curriculum development. And my focus on education has always been more within the community, right? Creating community initiatives and community programs. And so one of the things that I think is what we really need is to come together, because we have the science, AJ, we have the evidence of this kind of lifestyle help, the power of this lifestyle, not only to help cure our and regenerate our own health, but also when food is grown in a sustainable way, it can do the same for the environment, right? So it's a space where people can come together to explore ways in which we can do this in our community. We do this through workshops and networking sessions, and and then we have grant recipients that come in and share their work and what they're doing. So, it's just a space where let's take action. We have the evidence. It's now getting this out there into our communities more. And we're actually looking at perhaps ways that we can partner with my brother Nelson, the Plant Pure, pods, and bringing this together in maybe a bigger, more impactful way. So hopefully that'll be unraveling, or that'll come open. That'll happen soon.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Use in agroforestry. I don't think I've heard that word before said like that.
Okay, so yeah, it's here. I can almost do, if it doesn't make you dizzy, I can show you like right beside me. It's a tiered forest sort of garden. It's with all the root crops down below. So we have like the sweet potatoes, the yucca, the yautia, and then it's lots of fruit trees, and then it's the vines that come up the trees as well. So it's a pretty dense type of food system. And so what we're doing here with this project is we're going to do something similar with this project here. It's going to be an agroforestry project, but it's syntropic agroforestry. So we're bringing in a group from Brazil that's also going to help with this project. They've been doing this also in Brazil, and it's just a way to bring back soil health as quickly as possible, right? Reforesting the land, and at the same time being very intentional of what trees are planted, and also in the food that can be generated from that space. So there's actually one of the biggest obstacles too over the last 35 years is that there used to be an abundant amount of food here 35 years ago. I mean, it's just, I remember just going, all the fresh fruits that I had just shared with you, right? And now there's not that abundancy. And now it's even become hard for a lot of the families around me to get access to healthy, affordable produce, right? And so what we want to do with this project is going to be a collective. It's going to be like almost a community collective, where a food hub, where access to organic, healthy food at all times. So
speaking of healthy food, tell us about what you eat. And is it different when you're in the Dominican Republic versus when you're in North Carolina?
Yeah, no, it's a little bit different because I try to eat all local food. And so it's actually quite different. I have here in the Dominican Republic, I eat a lot of the green bananas and plantains and a lot of the root crops. Are you familiar with yuca or cassave?
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I make a lot of yuca fries. And so we have a lot of avocados also that grow right here beside me. And we make a lot of our own we make guacamole all the time. And I also grow a lot of kale here. So 3 different kinds of kale and lots of greens. But I also have a lot of greens in the States. So that is similar. But the biggest difference is probably all the different root crops that we have here, and the boiled green bananas and the boiled plantains and the different fruits. Yeah. So
the way you eat these bananas is you boil them. What do they taste like? Are they more starchy than sweet?
So the boiled green bananas are not sweet. No, it's more like almost like a potato. It's definitely starchy. The plantains are also, but you can also boil them when they're just getting a little bit yellow. So I like them actually when they're getting a little yellow, because when they're getting a little yellow and you boil them, they're a bit sweeter. So yeah, we make different soups with them. We eat them pretty much just boiled with different like sauces. I make a peanutty greens that I eat with my plantains, and they're really good, and guacamole too. So
nice.
It's very good.
That's so good. Do you cook from your own book?
Not really, because like I said, most of the food that I have here, it's just almost directly from my land. There is rice grown here on the island, so we do get our rice from there as well. And I try to get all my food, most of my food local. So we grow soy right here, soybeans, and I make my own soy milk. And we have different kinds of nuts, almonds, but the almonds here are nothing like the almonds in the US. They're skinny and long. And so I do also make different kinds of plant-based nut milk. And and then lots and lots of coconuts too. I make my own coconut milk. So but I try pretty much to use what I have here to make my meals.
You're living off the land, LeAnne.
I am, AJ. You'll have to come down and visit. Actually, it would be
so
I
cool.
Think it would, but I am living off the land, and and I dehydrate everything, because that's another little kink here, is that there's certain times of the years when all that zapote. I don't know if you know what a zapote is. It's like a bright red, fleshy fruit. It's got a big seed. Do you know that fruit?
I've heard of it. Actually, I think like a meme sapote.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it tastes like pie. It tastes like eating pie.
It does. It does. And so what I do is I actually get a lot when those are in season. I dehydrate those, and it's almost like a pink, it's not as strong as the licorice. It's more of a natural flavor, but it's so good dehydrated. And so I dehydrate a lot of food as well that's in season at that time, and then later it's no longer around. But I take that and I'll dehydrate it, and then I make, occasionally I'll make a drink with that, if just put it in water, and then it plumps up, and then I make a nice smoothie with it. So
when you make your coconut milk and your soy milk, are you using any particular piece of equipment that might be useful?
Yeah, so I actually had my Vitamix here, and one day there's this crazy power failure from here that burnt the engine up on it. So I bought just a regular blender here in the city, and I use that actually for my coconut milk, and also for my for my other milks. So I think it's an oyster
blender. Wow.
Blender. Yes. So but yeah, I used to use my Vitamix for everything. I liked that Vitamix, but now with the engine burnt, so
It's too bad because today we're awarding a brand new, almost $600 plant milk making machine called the Nutri Milk machine, but it's too late to enter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious if everybody's plant-based, meaning all 5 Campbell children married people that were plant-based, like, were they already plant-based when you guys met them, or did you do something to get them to be that way?
So let's see. Tom and his wife, Erin, they met in medical school, and I don't think she was plant-based at the time, but now she is, and she's also an incredible chef. And both of their sons. Wow. I mean, they probably are the best eaters of all the grandchildren in the family. In fact, it was funny over this vacation we just had in Warsaw, William's just shoveling the kale salad as fast as he could into his mouth, saying, this is my favorite food. I want more. But then my other brother, Eva, his wife, she was a bit, but she was vegetarian, but not like a whole food plant-based. And so she's transitioned. And then my other brother, Lisa, I think she was vegetarian. I believe she was vegetarian, but also transitioned more to a, whole food plant-based. So.
Do you have any funny stories that you can tell us about the Campbell family?
Gosh, funny stories. I don't know. I think
stories maybe that Dr. Colin Campbell wouldn't like us to know. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, embarrassing stories with my dad is he works all the time. He's constantly working. I don't know. I think my brother Nelson oftentimes talks about his sort of absent-minded professor type of, getting into his car and then driving into the car door behind him, not knowing it was still down. I don't know but otherwise, I don't know. It's what sort of happened funny this year. I don't really know. Off the top, any other funny?
Okay, well, if they think of anything, or it doesn't have to be funny, but a cute story.
Okay.
One of the live viewers named Nikki, you should contact Vitamix and see if they can fix it or get a refurbished one. But you should just tell them you're a Campbell and you were on Chef AJ Live talking about their product. They should just give you one.
Okay, was that Vicky that said that?
Vicky said that. A great suggestion. You never know. I mean, you gotta have your blender, for goodness sake.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Susan says, are you anywhere near, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to probably pronounce this city right, Tubagua?
Tubagua? How do you spell it?
Tubagua in the Dominican Republic.
No, I'm not. I'm in the Cibao region, and I'm north of Salcedo, not too far from Santiago, and San Francisco de Macorís and Moca. So it's about maybe 30 kilometers from Santiago. So, and I'm set higher in the mountains. I'm higher in the mountains.
Is veganism or plant-based eating even a thing in the Dominican Republic?
It's not, but I do have a lot of friends who are Dominican who are plant-based and vegan. Also, it's very easy, super easy actually to be vegan here, because the main meal every day is rice and beans, and they make some of the best beans. Oh, they're delicious. So it's easy to eat rice and beans, and then they always put something with the rice and beans. They say you can't eat them vacío, empty, just plain rice and beans. You have to have something to accompany them. And generally the way people accompany their rice and beans is either with, chicken or some kind of meat, or with a big salad. So I have my rice and beans and I have a big salad on top of it. And I pretty much eat that almost every day, and it's really good. My sons were pretty much raised on that, and that's their favorite comfort food. They call it their comfort food, rice and beans with a big salad on top of it.
No, that sounds
avocados on top of it. It's really good. Dominican beans are delicious. They make really good beans. Probably, I think, some of the best in the Americas. So.
Do you have any other gadgets other than a partially working Vitamix, do you have things like an Instant Pot or an air fryer? Maybe you have it in North Carolina.
Yeah, I do. I have an Instant Pot. Okay, so I did have my Instant Pot. It was shipped. I had another Instant Pot shipped down here. And if you can believe it, it actually was squished in the process of coming down. I mean, that really sturdy Instant Pot came in like flat. But yes, I have my Instant Pot in the United States and I use that quite a bit.
Nice. Are you going to be in the Dominican Republic or the United States for your Thanksgiving?
So I'm going back to the States on October 26th. We have a wellness retreat in Tucson, Arizona for CNS, and it's being hosted by our wellness director, who actually her hometown is Tucson, Arizona. And she's been with us now for 10 years, Allison and Oscar. And it's our first wellness retreat. And so I'm going back to the States for that. It will be October 26th. And then I'm going to stay then on for November and have Thanksgiving there. Yes. And I'll be with my sons and their partners, their girlfriends, and we'll be going probably to the mountains and having Thanksgiving together.
So it's not, Thanksgiving's not during the retreat, right? The retreat's before
It's
Thanksgiving.
not. So the retreat, exactly, October 30th.
Is
right.
Is it too late for people to join the retreat? Did you want to talk a little bit about what that is? And if it's too late this time, maybe next time they can join?
Exactly. It's not too late. If people would still like to join, they can. It's a wellness retreat and it's really focused on lifestyle, sort of lifestyle wellness. And we are having, some speakers that talk about sort of like sleep, insomnia, as well as, of course, all the nutrition benefits. And it's just, oh goodness, the activities and everything that's planned with movement and exercise and great presentations and sessions, great food, cooking classes, evening, sessions with all of the speakers who are coming in. My colleague, Dr. Ana Negron, will also be there speaking, including my father. And just more of a holistic look at health and stress management and dealing with issues of sleep and as well as diet, right? So
just a chance to get to hang out with the Campbells.
Yeah, it should be a nice week. I'm looking forward to it.
You guys are so,
and if they can't make it this year, we'll definitely do one next year. So
I mean, it sounds like fun. You guys are so chill. I mean, you guys are such a calm family.
It's sort of we all played sports, AJ, and so we were pretty competitive growing up, and we were all very athletic, and and I think my brothers were they were pretty they were pretty competitive. So I know people who come into our family and join in on a family board game at night. They're like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? This is just too stressful. But
that's funny. I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that one or play with it. What I love about your parents is they have such great senses of humor. They don't take things too seriously, because I can be a little edgy sometimes, and they really have always accepted me for who I am and not judged that part of me.
Yep. I told my dad I was talking to you today, and he said to say hi. And he said, AJ's a good person. That's great that you're talking to her. So yeah. My mom is probably the rock in the family. At the same time, she's the one who's the most calm. I think my dad also, he's can be a bit more intense, and my mother's just always the one. She's the solid, calm one. She doesn't sort of go one extreme to the other. She's very, very stable in that way, and she keeps us all grounded. So, she also keeps them grounded. She does a very good job of doing it. So
when I had my TV show in New York, they were guests, your dad, and also he did an episode with Dr. Essie. Do you guys ever are you competitive with the Esselstyn family? I keep thinking they should do Family Feud and have the Esselstyns versus the Campbells.
Oh, gosh. No, I know I don't really know the Esselstyn children, I guess. But I do know Dr. Esselstyn Caldwell, and I know his wife, and they came to 2 of our events that we had actually here in the Dominican Republic, and they're wonderful. I know my dad is very close to Dr. Esselstyn, and they talk often. Actually, they talk a lot. And Anne also gets on the phone and they talk, and then my mom will come in and they'll talk. But no, they're very, very good friends. But I would like to know, I know them a little bit better, but I don't know that well.
I have a story. A couple of stories, but for some reason I was at an airport at the same time as your parents. I can't even, I've done so many events, I can't remember why we were both at the airport at the same time, but the plane was delayed. And I remember hanging out with them, and I just told them a bunch of jokes that I would never tell for a general audience. And they just laughed. I mean, they really, they have a very funny side.
Yeah, they do. They do. My parents, they're very, very, very caring and considerate. They're also, and very open. I would say very open. They're not.
They're not like stick in the muds. They really
No,
are.
not at all.
That's why on the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise, if you go to the top floor every night, your dad's just dancing the night away, talking to people, so gracious. I have a funny story. Before I met your dad, I met him. Okay, so I want to say it was like, because I remember I had a broken knee, and this is important because it was hard to chef with a broken knee. But so it would have been around 2010 early, because I broke it in February of 2010. And I heard your dad was coming to Loma Linda to speak at a big thing, I guess for Hans Steele. And he didn't know me from Adam then, but I wrote him just like you would, like a fangirl crush, like, hey, I love your work. Can I, blah, 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 can I cook for you? And he was very gracious. He said, I'm so sorry. And he wrote me back. He said, I'm so sorry. I'm obligated to my host, So, okay, that's fine. And then Dr. Deal said, well, Dr. Campbell's coming for dinner. Can you come and cook for us? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. And it's the only time in my life that I ever canceled. I don't cancel stuff, like for a better offer, but I had a class book with like 25 people. And I said, listen, could we reschedule? Because I have this opportunity. So I got to meet him. I got to make this wonderful lunch. And I remember then, started talking to your dad by email, and there was a person I was friends with that had stage 4 colon cancer. And it was like not the first time. And so a mutual friend of ours went to visit him in the hospital, and he said, get me some McDonald's. Well, so the guy who's vegan he went to McDonald's just to get a bag, and he put the China study in the McDonald's bag and handed it to him. So I told your dad this story, and he said something, I could find the email if you want, but I should have pulled it up in advance. But he said something to the effect of, well, the pages of the China study are made from, paper, which is made from wood, which is high in fiber, which has been known to decrease the incidence of colon cancer. So, he's funny. He doesn't, he comes across sometimes dry because the material is, but he as a human is hilarious, if you ask me.
Yeah, he is. He's got a good sense of humor. Both of my parents do. My mother was raised with 5 brothers, actually. She had no sisters. And so I would say the same with my mother. She's pretty, can laugh at almost anything.
They know how to laugh, and they know how to have a good time. So Colleen, who's watching live, says she's going to be going to the Dominican Republic next month. She's crossing her fingers they will accommodate her with food. Why wouldn't they? I mean, beans and rice.
That's right. Beans and rice. And then it depends on where she stays, but pretty much here in the rural area, we have the boiled green bananas or plantains or sweet potatoes, almost or yaltia, the root crops, or the cassava, the yucca, every single day. And if she comes at this time of year too, I don't know if she eats avocados, but they also have a lot of avocados at this time of year. Or, people saute. I also make my own. I make like my own spicy ketchup sauce. Sometimes especially if I do the baked yucca that I then have with my ketchup sauce. But yeah, she shouldn't have any problem. A lot of fruit, fresh fruit, pineapple in the morning, papaya, mangoes, and a lot of fresh fruit for breakfast. And I don't know if she's going to be staying in a resort or if she's going to be cooking for herself, but she can buy oats here as well and have, with the fresh fruit with it, or There's
Would it
even
be possible for her to get it like without oil? Because I'm assuming she probably.
definitely, absolutely. I eat 100% without oil. So where is she going?
Yeah, Colleen, I'm having trouble seeing my chat. So Colleen, if you
Okay.
post it, I will look at, please post and let us know where you're going and maybe we can get you more specific information.
Yeah,
And somebody's saying, would you consider marketing whole food, plant-based foods? I would buy whatever products you sell. Well, your brother does that.
that's correct. He does. And he's coming out, I believe, with the new line that he said it's a dry food line. And I think it's called the second generation. It's not out yet, but they have a burrito line too that I think that just came out. So yeah. But
Right.
but
I
if Colleen is near me, just tell her to give me send me an email.
Yeah, and you'll
Actually,
tell her, and LeAnne will hook you up. That's great.
no, I love having visitors here. We do a lot of.
That is so. Oh, she's staying at a resort in Punta Cana.
Okay, that's actually the furthest from me. That's not, I'm near the northern coast and Punta Cana is on the southern coast, not too far from the capital. So that's a little bit far, but she shouldn't have a problem getting, the rice and beans. In most of those resorts, though, they do a lot of the standard American diet recipes, but the traditional Dominican diet is easy to stay vegan and healthy on. But yeah, but they have salads too at the resorts. They have lots of salads. And
Deborah wants to know, do you speak Spanish fluently?
I do. But I learned Spanish just by 35 years ago when I first came here, just talking to people. And so my teachers were those from the rural area. And I never really took a formal class of Spanish. So, I speak like the people around me. I communicate with anyone and everyone, and they understand me and I understand them. So,
That's
yes,
nice.
I do speak Spanish fluently.
Mm-hmm. How involved are you in your community? Are you doing any kind of research?
Yeah, so with this project that we're doing here with this land project, we're also trying to set up tree nurseries with some of the local schools, because with this project that we're going to be planting 23,000 trees a year. And so to do this project, and we're trying to use native Criollo native trees that we want to plant on this land. And so none of the tree nurseries in this area, and I've gone to every single tree nursery, they don't have the native trees, that fruit trees and some of the native trees that we want to grow on the land. So I'm working with a lot of the local schools. They in turn are working with the families in their communities. And we are having like little workshops on giving out these little black bags for people to plant the seed. So we have a little seed growing thing. And then we're going to actually purchase the seedlings from the children and the women when the trees get a little bit higher or a little bit taller, is, ready to transplant. And so, we have this project going where also the schools in turn are actually setting up some of the tree nurseries and some of the seed banks. And it's hard to get some of the more native trees. There's less and less of them, especially the fruit trees. So we also have, with the student groups that used to come down here, we work closely with the community on different projects that they sort of need support on. And sometimes with the student groups, we're able to raise funds. So in this area that I live in now, no one had running water in their houses when I first came to this area like 10 years ago. And so one of the first projects we did, actually, we raised $26,000 and to buy just, some of the more expensive parts of the project. But then all the men in the area and the women as well, they're the ones that dug the trenches. So they provided all the labor, which was massive. And then we were able to get some of the, support them by getting some of the tubes and stuff to put in a water system here.
Nice.
So we do different projects. Yeah.
Nice.
And we want to actually build a little clinic here on this project too, the La Vida Land project. We're going to have a little clinic there where we can It's going to be a lifestyle medicine type clinic. There are a few physicians here that have reached out and contacted me that have read the China study, and they would like to come and like do little immersion programs too with more of the local people here as well. So
very cool. Questions about tofu. Here, let me find them. Do you use much tofu there? And have you ever made your own tofu?
You know what? I actually tried to make my own tofu and it did not come out very well here. And so, so I like I had shared, I do grow my own soy, and then making the soy milk from that and then trying to make tofu, it didn't seem to come out very good. So no, I don't use that much tofu. However, there are now a couple different supermarkets, one in the beach area, the tourist area, and one in Santiago that has a natural food section, and they do sell tofu, which I'll make it down there. And it's interesting because there's a Seventh-day Adventist community that lives further up in the mountains, and a lot of them are actually from the States. And they have set up, it's really interesting. They also sell some of these different products, seitan, and they sell all different kinds of things. They also, I got my soy from them actually.
Wow. Kathy's saying, what has caused all the deforestation? You said it's agriculture primarily.
Exactly. It is. Basically what happened was that, there was, most people lived off of coffee, right? And there's coffee and there was a virus that came through and killed all the coffee plants. And so most of the people, 80% of the families moved from the rural area to the urban areas. And as they moved, for employment reasons mainly, as they moved, they sold their land to one landowner that was buying everything. So now, like this big farm and all the farms, going up all the way up to the top of the mountains, it's pretty much one person that owns a big plot of land, and they cut everything down so they can have livestock. It's a lot, less expensive. You don't have to pay for all the employment to have more, people grow things. So a lot of them are absentee landowners, so they live abroad. And so cattle's the one thing, grass-fed beef, the price is not going down. If anything, it continues to go up. So everything is going down. People are making less and less money for selling bananas. We have a lot of cacao around me, the chocolate. Cacao just plummeted. It went down as well. The plantains went down. But beef has continued to go up. So it's pretty much grass-fed beef. A lot of this is exported, right? So, it's sort of like people just want to get more and more land to clear cut it and put in more cattle. So a lot of it is directly 100% related to that, at least in the area that I'm in. So, yeah.
Somebody's asking what skincare products that you use.
What skincare products do I use? I can go get it. It's all I use is like a vitamin E cream. That's my mother was the one that my mother's always used it forever, and I use the same thing. She bought it. I got it in my room, but it's like should I go get it?
Well, you don't have to. Or I can also.
Well, I can't remember the exact name of it. I just know where I buy it. It's just a nice lotion, a vitamin E face cream that I use.
Very nice. And somebody's asking if you can please, let me get the name of the person. Arlene, she missed the name of your favorite beans.
And then my favorite beans, goodness. I love guandules, and they're called pigeon peas. And I also like this other bean, is the Java bean, and it's almost like a small lima bean, but it doesn't taste quite like a lima bean. And I like this bean because I can grow it on a vine, and it grows actually in the shade as well as the sun. And it's just, it's really tasty. It's almost like a butter bean. I also like black beans. I like red beans. I like all kinds of beans, actually. I'm lentils as well. But I like the pigeon pea. They're guandules. They call them pigeon peas, but they're nothing like a pea. It's more like have you had pigeon peas before?
I haven't. I've heard of them though.
Yeah. Yeah. It grows on a big shrub. And it grows, actually, they're popular too in Africa because it's a plant that is drought tolerant. So it can grow, with very little water and really hot sun. And there's a lot of them around here. A lot. Yeah.
Nice. What do you do for exercise there? Just walking around the beautiful.
Oh, goodness, AG. I do a lot of walking. I actually walk. I try to walk 4 to 5 miles a day. And this past weekend, we went up to this place called Constanza and we hiked. It's goodness, the first day we went on an 8-mile hike, and the next day we actually did a 12-mile hike. So we do a lot. I get up in the morning, maybe at 5:30 before, and I hike for 4 to 5 miles a day, pretty much. So
That's cool. Any pets? Do the Campbells have pets?
oh, goodness. We actually always had animals. I was, so when we lived in Blacksburg, Virginia, it was a small farm, the Appalachian Trail went across our land. And so my father my parents bought my one brother, Keith, for his birthday, a little pony. And so we had ponies and it was a pony that it wasn't a very nice pony. I remember it used to always bite us. And my father literally, I think he got it. Someone almost gave it to him. But and I had a horse, a little filly that I bought myself with. And so we had dogs. We had a dog. We had cats. And but my mother has a lot of allergies. And so for the most part, the cats the animals stayed outside. But down here in the Dominican Republic, I have a dog and I have a cat that just had 3 kittens. They're really cute little kittens that are running around now. And I have all the neighbors' chickens in my yard, probably 25 chickens at any given time, just because I am mulching everything. And so I have a lot of the soils are getting healthier and there's more earthworms. So the chickens are always trying to get the grubs and constant battle trying to keep them, away from my garden, but they're here.
Who watches the pets when you come back to the States?
So I have a few people because we have a dome. We have these dome homes that we built here. AJ, we have 4 of these round dome homes that after the Hurricane Maria went through Puerto Rico, we were actually in line for that hurricane and it did not come. It went through Puerto Rico, but with everything changing, we actually built these. We had an engineer come over from Spain who taught us how to build these like little round dome homes that can withstand like 260-mile-per-hour winds. So I have like little housing area here. So I actually have 3, there's a couple of people that stay here. So when I'm not here, they're constantly taking care of things and the everything that's being grown here and the animals and my dog too. She's every wall the neighbors actually feed her. There's if she goes down to their house, they give her any leftover like scraps because they know that I don't eat meat and they feel like she needs. So they sort of save the scraps for her. So she's not, and they're mine.
Yeah.
Getting really sick.
Mary Ann's saying where we can find out about the event, the wellness event in Tucson. I'm guessing on the Colin Campbell Nutrition Studies website below in the show notes. Thank you. Yeah. And Stephanie says, how do you make your homemade soy milk from scratch?
Yeah, so I actually, my mother, the last time I was home, there are a couple different ways you can do it. It's very time consuming and it's probably why I don't make it as much. I generally now do the rice milk, but because you have to take the skin off of every single, soybean. And the skin is sort of tough and hard to get off, right? So basically I boil it, right? And then I let it sit in water. And then I have to, I rub them through my hands to try to get all that skin off. And if you don't get the skin off of everyone, it's very bitter. And so, but it's very time consuming because I literally sometimes if it just have to go through almost one bean at a time to make sure all that skin is off. And then once it is off, then you boil it. And then until they're soft. And then I have don't even know how to say it in English, but the cheese paper, right? Where you push it, you actually push it so that everything, I have a sieve, a really fine sieve, but cheesecloth. And then you can also put it through that. And then so that, you don't get the skin or any of the, just the liquid comes through. And so, and then I always put a little dollop of vanilla in it as well. And yeah, it's good. I feel like, yeah, my rice milk too it's easier, and coconut milk is definitely easier too. So
Yeah, absolutely. Here is a wonderful question I just saw from Arlene. What was the best advice your mother and father gave you, like separately? So what was the best advice your mother gave you? What was the best advice your father gave you?
Gosh.
Plants. No.
Yeah, plants. But I think my father is such a big believer in education, right? And how I remember when I was had a fortune to go on a road trip with him when I was in 7th grade, and talking about like issues of just how power, and I don't know why we were talking about like power and change, and I remember him saying, the education is power, knowledge is power, right? So just learn as much as you can and try to stay informed and aware of everything that you can read. And so it's just, it's that whole idea of, my dad was really always big into pushing us to learn and stay educated and being critical of the education that is currently out there at the same time. So my mother, I think the biggest lesson, my mother is just almost her example, is her kindness. I think it's more of just, she's one that doesn't hardly ever judge anyone. She's always open to whoever, everybody. And she's, it's, for her, it's just don't judge and get to know, and just being open to where people are and where they're at.
Absolutely. Does it bother you when people criticize your dad? Because he's been attacked by people, not
Lots of
really,
people.
but like I remember, I actually had catered a dinner for your father. This was again also, it would have been, I think, 2011. He spoke at USC. It was a faction of their school, like a geriatric department. And there was a guy that was really rude to him. They were on a panel, and the guy actually stormed out, and your father didn't react. And I remember calling I called Dr. Esselstyn about it, and because I was upset for your father. Like, I was like, I wanted to punch him. And Dr. Esselstyn said something to me. I wish I could remember the quote exactly, but like something about, you can judge the quality of a person by how they react to something like that. It was a better quote. He said it much better, but the idea was, your father is such a gentleman. He's not going to behave like that, even when somebody is attacking him.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's actually, it does bother sometimes, right? I think he's had a lot of, I mean, goodness, he's been attacked from a lot of different angles. And I'll be candid, Chef AJ, I don't really read or try to go down that, it's just, yeah, I think there's a lot of negative nannies. I don't even really try to whatever. And I have more important things to do, and he has more important things to do. We can't let this kind of stuff bother us, because, it's how you react. Like you said it perfectly. It's how you react. Yeah. So what are you going to do about like this? How are you going to go? I think just putting your head down and focusing and going straight forward where you need to go, and not look either way. Just, just really And I mean, not either way in the sense of letting this stuff
Yeah.
stop you or
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
you have lots of nieces and nephews and the different ages. And I'm curious, like growing up, did they realize like grandpa was famous? Because I remember Dr. McDougall told a story once where his younger grandchildren, like, because he has that food product in the store, McDougall soup cups and oatmeal, and like they call it, oh, grandpa noodles. Like, do your nieces and nephews or even your sons when they were younger knew like your dad's kind of a big deal?
I don't think it's I don't think so. It's sort of funny that you say that because I think my sons are incredibly close to both of my parents. And they're very, very close to my dad. I mean, my youngest son, Nelson, was the one who just edited the book, The Future of Nutrition, with my dad. He's a writer and he's finishing up his own book now. But both of them are they're very protective of my parents. And I don't think that I don't think that I don't think they've really and my nieces and nephews, I'd somehow I don't know. I guess even Chef AJ, I don't even really see my dad as, as yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people admire and respect his work, but I sort of see him almost as any normal daughter would see her father. I don't think I see him as anything different. I mean, I can be mouthy with him at times, right?
Yeah.
And he can get upset with me too. But yeah,
He's a movie star. He was in Forks Over Knives.
yeah, I know it sort of always surprises me when people stop on the street and say, "Hey, are you this person? Can I take a picture of you?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness,
Isn't
what is
that
this?
funny?
Oh, this is so silly." I
But
know it's sort of like, this is funny. Come on, Dad. But no, it's not. It's for them. It's very important. So it's important for
he's
him.
always very patient with that. I noticed that about him.
Absolutely.
And Kathy wants to know, what's your favorite thing about living in the Dominican Republic?
So I'm actually also working on a book, AJ, and it's something, it's a more of a novel type book that I'm doing it, but it's a historical novel. And it's related to some of the stuff with the agriculture and the environment and all of that. And it's more about self-sovereignty and autonomy that we have over our food systems. And so I'm currently working on that. And for me, this is the best place to be because there's not that many distractions. And, like I said, there's only maybe 30, 40 households here. The beach is very close. The beach is beautiful. So I can go there on the weekends, but during the week, at Zoom, I have an incredible internet here, so I can do all of my work here, and I can still develop, my writing and do a few other things, and then hiking, like walking. I really enjoy just getting out and hiking and walking, and this is also perfect for me. And I love the outdoors, and I like being able to grow my own food, and just being close to nature. I'm very, very close to nature, and maybe that's one of the things that I love about being here, is because most people, you live outside here in this kind of climate. You don't really live inside. You go inside to sleep, and like right now, everything around me is open, and it's yeah.
That sounds great. Arlene is asking, what do you think the future holds? Because your dad actually wrote a book called The Future of Nutrition.
Yeah, so I think I think the future, we need to come together more as a collective around some of these issues. I think that there is a real intentional, push. I mean, just this weekend where we were hiking, I was just Monsanto and Bayer. They're in every little corner of the world right now, pushing their agrochemical products and just, the I think, the corporations, the corporate power that has that the future holds for us, I think for us to combat that, I think we need to come together at the local level. We need to work together. We need to work as a collective, and we need to support, each other in all of this. I think the community, building communities around this is really important. Because I think there are some bigger powers out there that we have to come together and talk about really innovative solutions on what we can do and model those and live that, right? We have to live what we believe. So,
and you are doing that, as is the whole Campbell family. But thank you so much. This has just been such a nice chat that we had. And I'm curious if you have any social media presence, if people want to connect with you more or follow you, if you will, where can I send them?
Sure. And so as I shared with you, AJ, in the very beginning, I'm a bit of an introvert and sort of a little, but please email me at lcampbell@nutritionstudies.org, lcampbell@nutritionstudies.org for this project that we're doing here. And we're going to have a big podcast that's going to go along with it as well. And so there will be a more of a presence around that, but to please, they can email.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, AJ. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you and your whole family for what they do. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in 90 minutes at 2 p.m. when we are going to award over $1,000 worth of prizes, which I wish LeAnne had known about because she apparently needs a Nutri-Milk machine for the episode. It's a really cool machine, LeAnne, because it doesn't do, well, it can do soy milk, but not easily, but it really does all the other ones, coconut and almond, and it's a very cool machine. Yeah.
Nice. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's called the Nutri-Milk, and it does other things too.
Okay.
So come back at 2, everyone, for episode 300 of Weight Loss Wednesday. Take care, everyone.